help our partners do that. And Shareable Study amplifies academic research. I think it's more than amplify. It's about branding and framing too, and working with our partners to get the best message as widely diffused as possible. And we design bespoke communication campaigns. So we work from what you're doing in your goals, and sort of the problem that we're addressing is that there's a lot of academic research that's out there, 1.8 million articles and 28,000 journals, but the average time that a typical research paper is read is about 80. There's a lot of research on this, and it does vary, but the general idea holds is that a lot of research is done that doesn't get much notice. And if research is seldom read or cited, and then it won't have any impact, and especially today, we can't afford to ignore research, especially in sustainable production and consumption, especially in this climate change era. And so this can stunt a researcher's career if their work doesn't get widely read or cited. And also there's often, as I mentioned, a section in these big research proposals that ask about how the research is going to be disseminated. And while I think academics are excellent communicators, that's not what their main focus is. Public communications, and it's more about the research and should be about the research. And so that's where we can come in. And the stakes, I think, are higher than ever for, you take this problem with research papers, and then the stakes are even higher for big research projects, big grant-funded research projects, because you spend 1 to 2 years getting the grant. You spend 1 to 5 years sometimes. I've seen, of course, these longer research projects, and so you don't want to spend like a significant percentage of your career on something that gets almost no notice or use or implementation. And so researchers are starting to think about and also allocate more budget to ensuring that research has the best chance to get cited and applied. And our experience is that grant makers appreciate innovative methods to get more impact, to get more exposure for the research that they fund. They like to see also these multi-stakeholder projects. And in the past, where the impact was about citations, about publishing in journals, right? And given today's real-world challenges, it's more important than ever to bring visibility and have that real-world impact and have that chance to get cited in the mainstream media, in policy documents and things like this, and also plans like climate action plans that cities make and so forth. And we are at a kind of frontier of a market shift, of a paradigm shift from impact being based on, or your work being judged by citations and getting published in journals, to things like alt metrics. So a much broader sort of balanced scorecard look at the impact that your research has. So, is it getting discussed on social media, and as I said, in like policy documents, mainstream media, and also plans and public plans and policy. So that's one big. There's a few pieces to this market shift. There's the alt metrics, the changing in funders' priorities. They want more partnerships, more impact, more engagement with the public. The shift in open education. So opening the whole research and education process from research to dissemination to instruction. Citizen science is a good example of this. Also open access. So knowledge should be freely available and put to use, especially for critical challenges. You see this open access issue rising every time we have a crisis like COVID, for instance, and making sure that research that could go towards a solution, go towards a vaccine is easily accessible, and on a global basis also. So, and also just rising awareness among policymakers, and you guys have seen this with the C40 reports, perhaps, but just a rising awareness of the role that sustainable production and consumption play in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and the role it'll play in addressing climate change. So there's a big kind of market shift that we're experiencing in that Shareable Studios addresses. And what we do is while there are actually, there are some services that are doing a piece of this kind of work, like for instance, translating a journal article into layman's terms, into a layman's sort of article for public consumption and promoting it, just this kind of little piece of this, or doing the graphics of for a scientific paper, and doing the illustrations or animations of a scientific principle, and so that's easier for people to understand, easier for the public to understand. But what we do is we put all of that together in a kind of tailored transmedia strategy that gets timely and important research noticed and talked about. And so what does that entail exactly? So we like to create innovative campaigns for our partners, and we think of them as transmedia, meaning there are multiple mediums and multiple channels that tell a story across all of them. People can enter, the public can enter into that story through their preferred channel and find their way to the heart of it and getting involved in it in a way that really makes sense to them. And in our experience in 12 years, we've done so many different things. Our own campaigns to start with, but we've done podcasts, we've done award-winning documentary film, we've published books, and designing them and all the content from beginning to end, the whole process of how to do a book, self-publishing, and also we published with traditional publishers. So sketch notes and webinars, and we produce all kinds of events. So we have experience doing this wide range of things. And so we're putting that together, and all our partners that we've met over 12 years around the world, all the talent, the creative talent that we can tap into to create this, create a campaign. And then we combine that also with our built-in audience. We've built up our own audience for sustainable production and consumption, and we have our own media partner network, our PR capabilities, and also an online ad program. As a nonprofit, we get $10,000 worth of free advertising every month from Google. They have a Google Ad Grants program. And these are some of our focal areas. Sustainable production and consumption, sharing economy, sharing cities, the commons, library studies, urban planning and urban geography. All of those first 5 are actually areas that we've already worked, but we could work in many other areas that are aligned with our mission. And it's kind of how we work. I think this is pretty typical, really, but it all starts with understanding the goals of the project, of the research project, and then design from that knowledge, leverage our expertise to engage the public, and then come back and document what has happened, what has the impact been, and how many people did we reach, where have we been cited, how did we get into the media. And I think the part of the special sauce that we bring to this is that kind of we work in a sort of emerging strategy paradigm or modality, like really looking for what comes out in the campaign that is unexpected and positive, and then how can we build on that, and not just stick to this rigid script, but realize we're working, and especially in online media, it's such a hyper-connected world that we live in, that there's going to be, things are going to happen that you don't expect, and that you should be prepared, both for the negative and also the positive, and then to change the script as you get feedback. And, you know, this just goes into a little bit about those 4 steps: assess, design, engage, and document. And I just want to share some case studies. So the first, so I have like 5 case studies. We'll just go through them really quick. But we've, Julian Agaman, you know, is a professor of urban planning at Tufts University. Also a board member of Shareable. He's a board chair of Shareable. And we've been working with him, with his cities at Tufts. He's got this every semester, a colloquium. Had been an in-person only thing. COVID hit, and then we took the whole thing online and amplified it. And you know, the audience went from just students and some faculty, and you know, maybe 50 or 60 people, something like that, to having hundreds of people show up, and also doing a kind of full media wrapper around the event. So we're doing the Eventbrite and promoting it and getting everything on social media, posting on shareable.net, recording each session, posting the recording and the transcripts also on shareable.net, creating a podcast episode from every series so people can download it and listen to it. And so just making it this more multi-dimensional, more transmedia kind of product that many more people can engage with, not just showing up for the event, but tens of thousands of people afterwards engaging with the content. So that's been a big success. And we also, like, we raised the money for it too. So, you know, Julian wanted to do this with us. He didn't have the money in his department budget, but he had some contacts. And so, you know, he opened a door at Kresge, and we went and, you know, raised $10,000 to help fund this. And we're continuing to do this. We just actually started, and so we've got like 10 events this semester, and we're looking at the spring and looking for more funding for that as well. So cities at Tufts also worked with the urban sharing team in Lund on a few things, but just pointing out one thing we did with them. They came to say, you know, Oksana, you know, emailed me and said, hey, we're coming to San Francisco and we need to do these focus groups. And it was, you know, just a few weeks away, and it, you know, needed some help organizing things, and, you know, friend on the ground, really. And so they, you know, in 10 days, we organized 3 focus groups, filled the panels, handled all the logistics, food, meeting space, and everything. And they were able to do their research. They were very happy with how everything went down. And then we're able to, you know, take their findings and publish them as planned. So that was also very successful. Really enjoyed working with Oksana. And then with one project, this is a new philanthropic, you know, foundation, philanthropic organization founded by one of the Facebook billionaires, and who are centering their work on the commons and wanted a better understanding of commons theory and practice, hired us to do a series of 10 expert interviews. And so we did these like 2-hour deep dives with people that we chose along with them, you know, really leveraging our network and our expertise in the area and our reputation. And all their interviews were recorded and then transcribed, summarized, and then the 10 interviews were also synthesized across all of them. We uploaded everything into their Notion knowledge management system. And we've got rave reviews about them, very helpful for them, and they're informing their strategy. They're new-ish, and their strategy is formed and evolving, and it's, you know, very commons oriented. But they were really happy with it and wanted, and Zach recommend that we do a follow-on project with them, and we're working on some new projects with one project. And then Higher Ground Harm Reduction, and they are a NGO and that want to do research in how to practice harm reduction in an era of during climate disasters and also COVID-19. And so we actually did a lot of the research ourselves with her help. It was a survey and stakeholder interviews, and then I also created a 2-part podcast about this topic based on the people that we met and the conversations we had. And really interesting project, great cause, great partner. And then also worked with Noah Lenstra at UNC Greensboro. He's got this program called Let's Move in Libraries. He's interested in how to engage the public a little bit more robustly. And he's really passionate about libraries and how flexible a kind of piece of social infrastructure they are, and communicating that and getting people to really rethink libraries in general. And so what we did is a pilot webinar series about how libraries and different libraries across the United States are working to improve food security in challenging neighborhoods. And so we just put together the whole webinar. Noah did the content piece with the panelists and everything, but we did all the technical pieces, and including like recording it, transcribing it, and publishing it on Shareable, all the promotion, and all this. And so this was a pilot, very successful, and now we're talking about doing a series similar to the Cities at Tufts colloquium, have all the library innovators. It's about whole series about library innovation. And then, just a little bit about our team. Yeah, this is the core team, but we leverage all of our relationships, all the creative talent that we have connections with through our work over the last 12 years. I'm really proud of this team. I'm just mainly act as a kind of strategist and project director. Christian does the creative work. Tom is, he's a producer, but also handles our partnerships. Zanetta is really about execution on the communications and editorial side. She has a background in digital organizing. And then our illustrious advisors, Ashley Colby and Julian Agaman, Noah Lenstra, all PhDs. Julian and Noah are working in academia as professors. And also, like I said, our partners, we have our own built-in audience and our own way of promoting, but we also work with media partners that help us get the word out about about our mission and our projects and our campaigns. Usually this service is a 10 to 15% of a total, total budget of a research project. And yeah, so that's what Shareable Studio is all about, turning academic impact into real world impact. And I'm really curious about, as I said, your feedback about this service, any opportunities out there about the product market fit, how we're communicating this, just and any questions in general. So I'll just open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Neal, very much. Can you unshare your screen at this moment?
Yeah.
Yes, so we can see each other. So I've seen already a few comments in the chat box. So let's see where they are. So first one to comment was Charlie Roger. Maybe Charlie, you want to begin?
Yep.
Hi, Bill. I'm not Charlie. I'm masquerading because we're on another Zoom network. It's this Tom Abels, who we've corresponded with.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I think what Shareable is doing with regards to sponsoring conferences and workshops and pulling people together is critical and is important, because what is being done right now is piecemeal and not as thorough as what Shareable is doing. I think it will grow, and it's an amazing change pace as opposed to just being able to get the academic works out. You want to get the
Bye.
faculty
Thanks.
out. I think it's great. The other issue is that I put a comment on there about Shaping Tomorrow. And I think Shaping Tomorrow is a good complement to what Shareable is doing. They offer a lot of free space to academics. They search about 10,000 articles with an intelligent search engine called Athena. And basically it will extract out of articles that are available, open access, and other published materials that are readily found on the web, and actually write reports and do analysis, and which I think is a good complement to what Shareable is doing right now. It expands the kind of materials that they can bring into the conferencing area, which is where Shareable appears to be moving.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Tom. And nice to see you in person. Neal, do you want to react?
No, I mean, those are really good leads, and I'll check them out. And that's the kind of comment I really appreciate, just because we are, fine tuning the offering and everything. And I'll check out Shaping Tomorrow. So thanks for that. That's very encouraging.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. And so SG asked in the chat, would you be able to share some of the learnings? What kind of designs drove the most public engagement? So that's a question about the design.
Yeah.
So SG, maybe you want to add a little bit to it in person?
No, I think that covers it. Maybe a little bit about citizen science as well, since you mentioned it at some point.
Yes.
I didn't really see how it fit in, so that would be great.
Yeah, and I think well, first of all, like some of the, you're starting from in terms of public communication for academics and what they're able to do, and really mainly constrained by their time is not being able to communicate it as thoroughly as maybe they should, given the importance of the research. And then really stepping back and reconceiving research projects as also a kind of public campaign, with all of the features that a campaign would have, and sort of opening up that whole process from beginning to end as something that the public can engage, so that when the research actually comes out, you've already built an audience, and they can take your audience can take that message even further. So I think that's the main thing, is just making more space and resources available for the communications part, and then thinking about it as a whole campaign.
Thank you, Neal. So there's another question in the chat from Aryav Chotan. You can read it yourself. The international context and your research area concerns technological impacts and sustainability within developing communities in Puerto Rico and in India. You want to add something, Aryav?
Yeah, that was the gist of my question. I just wanted to know if how Shareable works within a larger context for communities where there might be different kinds of strategies to take in place.
We have worked internationally quite a bit. Our audience is over 50% outside the United States, and we have a surprisingly large Indian audience, and we want to do more work that way, and work that would, I think, challenge us and expand our capabilities. I think if we're talking about working in areas, the global south, or whatever term you want to use, like the developing world, which, all problematic in some ways, but you get my gist, that there would be a different set of challenges and way to communicate. So, so yeah, we want to do that. We're already doing that, and we want to do more of it.
Thank you. Somebody from the audience. So I have the super big question for you, Neal. That is, we want, well, the short version is, in order to meet climate change goals, we cannot only use renewable technology, we also need to change lifestyles, which is a nice way of saying that we need to reduce material consumption and especially energy consumption, especially for the rich people like us. So, and tons of research have already been done, and we know theoretically how to do it, but there is no translation to practice. It's only very recently that in journals like The Guardian, people actually start to talk about these things. But policymakers, of course, it's very unpopular among policymakers and voters. So my first question would you be able to narrow down this issue to a manageable proportion? And the second, if SCORAI would be able to ask your advice how to start a campaign that is effective in the real world, would you be able to do it? How would you do it? And anyway, this is the big question, I think.
Yeah, yeah, those are big questions. I'll take a crack at it. I think I won't answer it directly, but just say in general that I think to have the impact that SCORAI can have, that a shift towards a sort of active research, or a combination of action and research, like really getting, I know you, for instance, Philip and Helena, I know you're very active in your hometown about forming climate change policy. That would be a perfect example where you create a research project in your hometown, and it's maybe a longer term one, maybe it's 3 years, 3 to 5 years or something like that. That's both about on the ground impact and learnings, and this kind of this iterative thing, right? Where you learn as you go and you evolve the project and the research goals as you learn, right? And we've got to get out of the ivory tower and get our hands dirty. That's like the short answer. And one of the projects that we are developing right now is with the Cool City Challenge. They're giving $1 million to 5 cities to execute at scale their Cool Block program, which is a neighborhood level climate action program that I've done in my neighborhood, and where through a series of 8 meetings, you work with your neighbors to take very concrete action to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, doing things like insulation and changing your diet, changing your transportation. Also doing, it's more than just climate too. It's also about disaster preparedness and also about sharing resources. That's why I got involved, because there's that component about how you share material goods in your neighborhood. And so I think that's a kind of model for the future, because it's going to be both on the ground action with a program that has a track record, is proven. There's a research component, so a tracking component. What is the impact?